And may God be with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Gospel attributed to John.
Glory
to you, O Lord. Before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to God. Having loved his friends who were still in the world, Jesus loved them to the end. During the supper after Judas left, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. Dear friends, I'm only with you a little longer. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, and you also should love one another. And by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Words from the Christian scripture book of John.
Praise to you, Jesus Christ.
Now I'm going to speak for about 2 hours.
No, you're not. You got an appointment. You'll miss your performance.
Alas, the perils of preaching on love, the love that comes from Jesus, who is love incarnated. It would be problematic if I were to stay in the realm of ideas, church teachings, or up here. But oh, to speak of love from personal and experiential places, now we're cooking. Rather, now we're baking, because baking bread is something I love to do. And I could tell you all about how I bake bread, with methods, tips, and the like, but to really experience what bread is, you've got to mix the dough, knead it with the palms of your hands, and allow it to rise graciously, slowly in your kitchen. You know it more tangibly after shaping the dough into the baguettes and laying them on the pan for the second rising. The knowing becomes intimate when about 10 minutes into the baking of the loaves, the blessed aroma begins to waft up around you like a happy dog greeting you at the door, or a favorite song on the radio. But you won't really ever truly know bread until you pull off a piece and slather it with some real butter, or dredge it through some olive oil with herbs. That's to know bread. Yeah.
Now we're all hungry.
I want to consider a different kind of oven, though. This is a crucible, ordered from a scientific catalog. It's a little ceramic jar with a lid. Scientists use these to melt metals at high temperatures to induce chemical reactions, to evaporate liquids, and fuse metals. This is fierce. This is an important image given how the passion of Jesus became a spiritual crucible when, together with his followers, an essential change was coming, as the temperature had risen to lethal levels because of his presence and his teachings. It is precisely this threatening, dark, and emotionally fraught moment that provides a momentous backdrop to Jesus' words, his final words, spoken before the assault came, the words that became his swan song. That's an ancient Greek metaphor for referring to an old belief that swans, normally mute, would burst into beautiful song moments before they died. I give you a new commandment, love one another. As I have loved you, so you also should love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Now, didn't Jesus already say that to the young lawyer in Matthew's gospel about that greatest commandment? Yes, and so why again? This time it's about context. Real situations that test the veracity of our words. Again, the crucible of the passion that Jesus was just about to be placed within, so that an essential change would result in us and for us. Our passage from the book of Revelations ends with that hope-filled statement, "Behold, I make all things new." I find it curious and deeply inspiring that this is what Jesus is saying to his mother in the movie Passion of the Christ. After he's fallen and the weight of the cross is rolling over him, feebly he gets up the eye level to Mary, to say those words, to speak those words, behold, I am making all things new. We're talking about that kind of love. Qualified, verified by the one who went the distance to bear them. The elements that this crucible produced were of an extraordinary kind. Elements of purified love that were infused into his disciples as they remained in communion with the Christ and one another. Our reading from the book of Acts shows the resulting new faith community of disciples taking Jesus' new commandment and forging it into something real, something tangible. Reading that passage is like poring over a really well-written resume, where the writer highlights one's action statements indicating how they're worthy of being hired. So listen again to what they did. They proclaimed the good news, strengthened the Spirit, exhorted them to persevere. They appointed elders, commended them, traveled, proclaimed, went down, sailed to, called the church, and proclaimed and reported. Indeed, that nascent faith community acted with urgency and heightened purpose, and they were energized by that new commandment, as evidenced by the growth and spread of Christianity since. And what about us today? Who are we in relation to that new commandment? And what does it mean? Mindful that this new commandment was spoken by Jesus at that Last Supper, we can know that it is utterly and irrevocably situated in communion, that which we are about to celebrate once more. How grievous are the forces of exclusion and separation that are fastidiously at work in our land right now. Without dredging up too much of this darkness, let us focus upon the Christ, our light. In fact, the play of darkness and light is rooted in an art term known as chiaroscuro, the art of employing light and dark to bring about and to celebrate contrast. Given the black backdrop in place in our world today, here's how I see the divine artist's hand re-inscribing, re-authenticating the new commandment in our very day to light our way forward. So let me highlight the new commandment in recent times in some things that I've seen from where I'm coming from. First, love meets others in their pain and in their need. Just a few weeks ago, you may have heard about that tragic accident in Chatham, Illinois, just south of Springfield. The teachers, the staff, the parents, and the administrators invited the hurting and wounded to come together at that ubiquitous place, the football field, to be in solidarity with one another. Over a dozen therapists, psychologists, psychiatric professionals, and clergy gathered to be available over several evenings to listen to anybody who needed. Mm-hmm. When it became known that the cause of the accident was due to some health-related blackout, a collection was then planned to also help the woman who drove the car, causing the accident. And yesterday, the Hindu community in Springfield welcomed all to their temple to offer what they called a community meal for healing. Second, love sacrifices itself for the good of others. Even as ICE agents recently seized 2 men from the trailer park community that Holy Family and other churches were serving, a dozen representatives from those faith communities came together and put a plan to assist the wives and the children who were remaining, who lost their primary means of support. The Springfield Immigration Action Network, or SIAN, has now begun to receive funds for those. These, our brothers and our sisters, our sons and our daughters. Love gathers people together in and for communion. Now we can see this in everything from graduation parties, recent protests, yesterday's Pride celebration in Springfield and other places, and even the recent conclave to elect Pope Leo. Love gathers people together in and for communion. And also, love seeks to understand, to forgive, and to accept. I had the privilege of offering an invocation at the rally on the steps of the state capitol on May 3rd. And just after I spoke, a trans woman named Carrie, came up wearing a t-shirt that said, I am. And she said, I am loving. I've been on the receiving end of so much bullying, mockery, hatred, and judgment that I don't want anyone to feel that from me. She called on the angry protesters there to refrain from falling into hate while extending a renewed willingness to see the other side with civility. So we here, as we extend this charter, the great Christian experiment that has echoed for 2,000 years, may divine love reinscribe that new commandment on our spirits like a beautiful tattoo on our bodies. I pray an enduring trust assures us that it has the power to transform us as love widens the capacity of our hearts, just as the potter stretches the bowl on the wheel, and as the divine artist slows the wheel and gently sets us into the kiln of today. Let us give thanks as we receive love's gaze and receive love's words. Behold, I make all things new through you for all.